set up by a racist system, filled with apathetic jurors, lazy police, and a district attorney's office with tunnel vision. Let's say it clearly. Ronnie Long did not rape Sarah Bost, or that lady in Washington, or Verna Miller, who never even existed. For about 2 weeks, Ronnie disappeared. Well, not really, but Ashley could not find him. For some reason, the prison was on lockdown and she was not privy to any information about Ronnie or his condition. He kept showing up at the prison and was aggressive about what was going on. After a few incidents, they finally tell her she has no right to any information because she is not related to Ronnie. She is not next of kin. This didn't stop Ashley from continuing her work for Ronnie. If anything, her worry for him emboldened her. One morning while at McDonald's, she finally receives a phone call from Ronnie. The prison was under inspection and that's why it was closed for so long. Relieved, she is overwhelmed by hearing his voice finally. Then it hits her. She loves him. And she tells him this right then and there. The next day, she visits him and has an idea. Her proposal was a proposal. If they get married, then the prison can never cut her access to him off. She will have the right to know about his well-being, and the title will help her get him help from the outside or on the inside. And it will give her a clear place in his life. Ronnie accepted. Smart man. Ronnie's attorney, Jamie Lau, helps to organize the proceedings. This was not easy, but it worked out. So, on the morning of August 18, 2014, Ashley shows up at Harnett Correctional Institution inside the prison chapel near Ronnie's prison. Wearing a summer dress and shiny black heels, Ashley nervously waits. Ronnie has already arrived. He is in the bathroom. The guy cleans up well. Wearing crisp khakis and a sky blue button-down shirt, he's struggling to tie his necktie. His hands shake. Frustrated, he takes it off and pockets it. A correction officer waits for him in the hallway. The two walk out. No family attends on either side. Ashley and Ronnie both got wedding ring tattoos. Hers was professional. His was prison-made, yet somehow turned out slightly better. There was no best man, but there were 2 witnesses, which were both approved by the prison. Another inmate and Ronnie's program manager. There were also a few stragglers who wandered in and out, although they were not supposed to be in there. Incidentally, Dateline NBC's true crime show has shown an early interest in covering the wedding, but some elements of Ronnie's case made them reconsider. Regardless, it was a lovely day and a nice respite from Ronnie's usual day in prison. When Ronnie kisses his bride, it is with a bit of awkwardness. A strange feeling washes over him. It is a feeling of invincibility, husband and wife against the world. Later that evening, Ashley informs Ronnie that she got them a dog. Ronnie wonders why. Ashley says, he was old and no one was ever going to adopt him. He frowns and says, sounds familiar. He grins. Besides, it's nice to have someone next to me in bed. Ronnie snaps back. Dogs belong outside. When I get out, he's living in the yard. Ashley rolls her eyes. Well, maybe I'll just stop helping you get out. He playfully tosses some paperwork in the trash. They laugh. Ronnie says, that's not funny. Ronnie wakes up one night and someone or something is in his cell. It sits at the foot of Ronnie's bed. Its back is to him so he can't see any features. The voice sounds raspy but familiar. It's the same one from Solitary. The one heard at the other prison. Years ago? Decades ago? There's something to his cadence. It feels different than before. Ronnie asks if they met. You ain't never getting out of here. And the white woman didn't put you here. Cops ain't do it either. Those words anger and terrify Ronnie. He asks, why is it following him? He responds, "Do you want to know your future?" Ronnie is hesitant, but concedes to this offer. "Your friends will die. The rest of your family dies. For every gain, you suffer a hindrance. You lose forever, till finally everyone and everything is gone. Never breathe free. Then you are buried in an unmarked grave." This thing finally turns to face Ronnie, revealing itself to be a much older version of Ronnie. His face has scars on it. This warped, altered version of himself tells himself, "And the only person to blame is in this cell. Just accept it and stop wasting everybody's time. There's peace in acceptance." Ronnie responds with an affirmative, "No." The older version of himself slowly stands up and grabs a nearby cane and limps through the bars and out of the cell. Ronnie wakes up, and it is now morning. He breathes out with a loud sigh. The North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission is up next. The thing about this organization is that they reach out to the victims of the said crime, almost asking for permission. Then they only get involved if there's new and transformative evidence of misjustice in the verdict of the convicted. In 2015, they discovered there were over 40 pieces of new evidence, but a 3-person panel rejected Ronnie's case, saying there was simply not enough new evidence regarding DNA. But as the panel investigated the case, they discovered 2 things. There were more than 70 fingerprints taken at the crime scene. Concord Police Department knew about the prints and hid the results. Why? Because none matched Ronnie. The other revelation was that there were 6 other suspects. One was mentioned in the police file given to Ronnie's lawyer back in 1976. 3 were in the alternate suspects' picks from that earlier trial. That makes 4. Who were the other 2? Also, why were these men even alternate suspects? How did they end up on that short list? This is how Ronnie's team knew there was info out there that they had not seen. They asked the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission if they could get access to the new info they discovered. The commission agreed, but only if the prosecution allows it. Want to guess what they said? Go ahead. If you guess that the prosecution was okay with this, then you haven't been paying attention to this podcast. There was suspicion of outside influence from a North Carolina GOP, Grand Old Party, chairman, Robin Hayes. Hayes considered himself as a part of Sarah Boss's family. He met her through his family. His great-grandfather, James William Cannon, founded the Cannon Mills Corporation. In fact, he is the heir to the company's fortune. He is also a bit ridiculous. He received laughter and backlash after he supported a sex education curriculum that told kids to wash their genitals in rubbing alcohol or Lysol after sex. In 1996, Hayes ran for governor and lost. Regardless of that loss, Hayes is arguably the most powerful Republican in North Carolina, and he promised as long as Sarah Boss was alive, Ronnie would not go free. Truth be told, as long as Robin Hayes was alive, he likely assured Ronnie never went free. That means Ronnie's team may never find where the fingerprints are, or if they'll exonerate him or not. They also have no idea who the other 2 suspects were. Jamie Lau, who was Ronnie's lawyer, went to court with this new info. But because it is new info, it gets kicked back to the state. Case closed. A disaster. Why? Instead of being judged by the same crooked jurisdiction that wrongly convicted Ronnie, they want to go to federal and hopefully get fresh eyes and open minds. His team will appeal the decision to send his case back to state or superior court. Ron L. Bowers, one of the lawyers that put Ronnie in prison, hears about the revelations and voices his disappointment. He believes Ronnie did not get a fair trial. Once he made his view public, The Cannon family reached out and made it clear that Ronnie Long's sentence was correct. They felt justice had already been served. On second thought, Ron Bowers said he misspoke. He retracted his earlier comments favoring Ronnie. Things are not looking up for Ronnie, and the Cannon family was determined to make sure Sarah Boss never had to live in fear of her rapist. Although justice seemed to be fleeting, Ronnie's team refused to surrender. Unshaken, a little later in 2015, Ronnie's lawyer filed a successive petition request to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Ronnie needed one more chance in federal court. Speaking of Sarah, after the trial, one of her biggest sources of support came from Dr. Fred Craven. He received his medical degree from NYU in 1938. Then he moved to Concord in 1939 and opened up his own practice. After his first wife died, he received a lot of emotional support from Sarah. That support eventually blossomed into love. Sarah would go on to marry Dr. Craven. They enjoyed 24 blissful years of traveling around the world together. She neither denied or allowed herself to be defined by her assault. She simply kept getting up in the morning and living her life. In 2016, Ronnie was transferred to Lanesboro Correctional Facility. On July 30th, 2017, Ronnie received some heartbreaking news. Earlier that morning, Donna Bennick went for a swim in her pool. Hours later, she was found floating face down. Donna's aggressive style of defense for her clients made her enemies. Could one of them have a hand in her demise? Regardless, this news devastated Ronnie, who had just talked to Donna 24 hours earlier. Her death is written off as an accident. Ronnie would spend hours on the phone with her husband trying to console him. Memories of Donna would usually leave both men joking, still mourning but through laughter. But in the back of his head, Ronnie couldn't help but wonder if a prophecy was coming true. A month later, he receives even more bad news. A phone call from his mother. Ronnie grabs his walking cane and makes his way to the payphone. After a few phone calls, Ronnie discovers his mother has cancer. He has to get out of here before she passes. Ronnie cannot allow his mom to leave this earth with a broken heart, like his dad. If ever there was a time for him to lie about being guilty, the time's now. Thank you for listening. This has been another Shade of Crime. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe.